Donald Trump has officially backed off from his threats of closing or shutting down the border with Mexico. Take a look.
We're going to give him a 1-year warning. And if the drugs don't stop or largely stop, we're going to put tariffs on Mexico and products, in particular cars. The whole ball game is cars. It's the big ball game. With many countries, it's cars. And if that doesn't stop the drugs, we close the border.
Look, it's both terrifying and amusing at the same time. The whole ball game is cars. That's the whole big ball game.
Look, he does not put things in eloquent terms. We know that.
Man, that's wins the understatement of the year.
I know, but he is right in that what convinced him not to shut down the border was the disastrous effect it would have on the economy, specifically the auto industry. So, he can't really communicate that in a professional way. So he says it in the way that he likes to talk about the big ball game.
Yeah, so you can say, hey, if we shut down the border, the largest effect would be on the auto industry, and I am concerned about that, and that's why I've decided not to pursue this. Or you could say, the whole ball game is cars, so we're not shutting it down, but I'm totally consistent. Okay, now let's be clear about what he did here. This was a 100% reversal. So earlier he said, I could shut it down. I'm thinking about shutting it down. Dude, Mexico better watch some. I'm gonna shut it down, right? So now he's saying, get a load of this. We're gonna give them a 1-year warning. Okay, so that's it, we're done with it. Do you know how many times Donald Trump is gonna change his mind on every issue within 1 year? 1.5 million. We're gonna come back to it a year from now? Okay, we're done with it. Number 2, he says, if the drugs don't stop, or largely stop. Okay, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. That means I'm done with this idea. This is just a backpedal way of trying to save face. Like, oh, I'll show Mexico, but a year later, if things don't stop, or largely stop. Okay, and then the third part is, we're gonna put tariffs on Mexico's products, and then see if the drugs stop, and then think about closing the border. Well, by that time, you'll be out of office. I mean, from my mouth to God's ears, right? But so in other words, total withdrawal from his earlier policy statement. Again, Republicans talked to him. I'm surprised that people are able to talk sense into him.
Well,
I thought he might do this thing. I really did.
I had no idea what he was going to do because he is a little unruly at times, but sometimes he does listen to lawmakers like Mitch McConnell, for instance. But I do want to point out something. This is what the millionth story at this point, where you have Trump declaring things and threatening to do things, and then there's a big reversal because he's had a conversation with either aides or other Republican lawmakers. And it reminded me of what Paul Ryan had said in regard to AOC earlier, right? We did that story yesterday. He said, AOC didn't take my advice. I told her, hey, you're new. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but his advice to her was essentially, why don't you sit down and just listen and observe before you do anything? I would argue that maybe you need to make that case to Donald Trump, who consistently makes a mockery of the Republican Party by, again, threatening to do things and then realizing that it's going to backfire on him, tremendously in his words. So Republicans have to convince him out of it. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, Ryan meant more that if you're a new freshman congressperson, you basically shouldn't do anything, which is a hilarious, ridiculous thing, but that most of Washington believes. Now, if you're the president, you can't not do anything. But you're right that the Paul Ryan advice would go doubly for Trump. We're not asking you not to not put together policy proposals. We would love that as progressives, but that's not a reasonable request. No, what we're saying is, if you're going to do a proposal, maybe run it by someone else in the government. Like ask the Senate Majority Leader, who is your colleague, a Republican. Maybe ask your chief of staff. Maybe have him ask one of the thousands upon thousands of employees that you have at the White House and the federal government overall to look into it. Maybe do an analysis ahead of time instead of every single time having verbal diarrhea. Go, I'm closing down the border. And then they talk to you and then you're like, I'm not closing the border. Maybe a year from now, if things don't stop, because I had a new thought. Yeah, well, try the new thought first. Like, go talk to a couple of people, see what they have to say before you spew things on Twitter. Look, he's just incredibly unintelligent, as I've said a million times.
He's unintelligent, and while we do make light of some of his nonsensical statements, he's also dangerous. And I think that element of danger is revealed in this next clip. Let's take a look.
Mexico understands that we're going to close the border, or I'm going to tariff the cars. I'll do one or the other, and probably start off with the tariffs. That'll be a very powerful incentive because Mexico has the strongest immigration laws anywhere in the world. They don't have courts like we do. We have a stupid system of courts. It's the craziest thing in the world. We could be the only country that has it. You put a foot on the property. You put a foot into the United States. Congratulations. Go get Perry Mason to represent you.
We're the only country that has a system of courts. Well, then I'm more proud of being an American than I ever have. What?
He thinks, he truly believes that's a bad thing. That we have courts, that we have judges. How many times has he talked about his disdain for immigration judges? I mean, it's scary when you really think about it. He sounds like an idiot. We all know that. We all acknowledge that. Even the MAGA guys have to acknowledge it. But think about the fact that he is just very transparently saying he doesn't believe in due process, he doesn't believe in the rule of law, he doesn't believe in our justice system. He doesn't like judges. Yeah.
Look, you can't ever expect Republicans to be principled, but this is astounding. If Obama had said he doesn't believe in a court system and that America is the only country in the world that has a court system and that we shouldn't, okay, you know what would happen. That would have run not 24/7 on Fox News, obviously, but it would have run for the rest of time. They would have always gone back to, can you believe how stupid Obama is? He thinks that that we're the only country that doesn't. Imagine if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had said it.
Oh, done.
Okay,
imagine. She misspeaks a little bit, and everyone's on her.
And by the way, 90% of the time she doesn't even misspeak. They just take things that she said that's perfectly normal, and then they twist it, right? And oftentimes she's absolutely right, and they're like, oh yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, but look into it. Anyway, in Trump's case, always excuse on top of excuse. Well, he doesn't mean get rid of the whole court system. He just means get rid of due process when it comes to immigration. Number one, is that really a good thing? No, that's a terrible thing, because that's getting rid of due process, which is a core principle of American government in any regard. Let alone, and again, if a Democrat had said it, they would never give them the benefit of the doubt and say that no, he didn't mean the entire court system. Now remember, he's spoken out against the court system on a number of occasions. Remember when he said the judge was Mexican, even though he's American, and so he shouldn't be allowed to try his case. He says that you shouldn't. Maybe you should be illegal to cooperate with law enforcement. Spoken like a true criminal, right? A true criminal. So anyway, no, this guy's a danger to our system of government. Doesn't believe in it, and I just think that closing down the border would have been a dangerous idea and catastrophic for our economy. But Anna's right that the bigger danger is to our system of government in its entirety.
And one other thing I'd want to quickly mention is that everything that Trump does and says in regard to the border is part of his campaigning. That's really the thing that he can latch onto to rile his base up. He tried to do that with healthcare, and it was a complete and utter disaster. And so he goes back to the tried and true method of bringing up the others, fear-mongering about migrants, and latching on to what we need to do with border security. And so even though this was a giant loss for Trump, again, he's planning this publicity stunt at the border. Let me give you the details. Sarah Huckabee Sanders spoke to Fox News and said, quote, "The president wants to show the progress that we've made on the border wall. There's a section there that has been finished, and he wants to be able to see that, but also he wants to show a lot of people firsthand exactly what is taking place at the border." So again, it goes back to Trump's campaigning and publicity stunt. That's why he can't help but go back to this issue over and over again. It's all he's got. One trick pony.
I think I'm going to repeat this until he's out of office every day. We've gotten used to the fact that the president knows absolutely nothing and does not believe in our system of government and is mentally unbalanced. We should never get used to that. So a guy who says, "Why do we have courts?" It's stupid. It's stupid to have courts, and that no other country has it. It's disqualifying. It's disqualifying. If he was running for office and he said something like that at any level of government, you'd say, well, no, you obviously can't vote for that guy. And so, but he is the president. We've come to accept it, and now the media treats it all as normal, perfectly normal. The president would like to do away with the courts. Look, I'll give you one last juxtaposition here. So some of the Democrats have suggested adding more justices onto the Supreme Court. Now, I actually don't agree with that, but it's an interesting idea, and the media has reacted with general outrage. That seems like packing the courts, and it's unacceptable. On the other hand, we have the president and the leader of the Republican Party going, why do we even have courts?
Right.
How is that not a million times more outrageous? And we, unlike Republicans, are principled. So when Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder talked about drone strikes, and he said, if the executive branch reviews it, that's due process. So due process is not necessarily going to the courts. It was outrageous. The mainstream media didn't seem to find it outrageous. We found it outrageous because it is. And it's against our form of government, and it's unconstitutional, and it's damaging. So now that was a slight opening of the door, and that's why we warned you very significantly, do not open that door. That is not how America operates. Now, Trump kicks the door open and now talks about getting rid of courts, and here we are. And still the media barely reacts. I get it, this one I'm not as tough on the media on because they're overwhelmed by his insanity. And he says 20 crazy things per day. How do you keep up with it? I can't even remember the orange of it. Okay, so,
that was good, that was
good. Thank you. But don't treat it as normal. We must get back to America. I mean, how's that for ironic? Let's make America America again. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.